they'll be coming out, they'll be limping around, he'll go down and hoist them up. And say, do your work, and shove them that direction.
It's a quest movie, it's an adventure movie, it's a movie with magic in it.
It's a wonderful script, how they become enticed and trapped by their own myths and legends.
It's kind of how you would dream, except clearer.
Are we going to do, first of all, is Heath going to be operating that camera?
Better not, yeah.
We all grew up on the Grimm brothers fairy tales, and the Grimm brothers we always loved because they have a, cruelty and darkness that all kids love.
Fairy tales on screen are really interesting, especially done by Terry Gilliam, of course, because behind the fiction, you have truth.
And action! I've got to say from the start that this has nothing to do with the real Brothers Grimm, other than the fact that they were collectors of German folk tales, and we owe them a lot of thanks. So rather than thanking them, we're using them.
We don't want people to think that this is the biography of the Grimm brothers, because that's a completely different story. This is a much more fun, lighthearted angle to get into the world of their fairy tales.
People talk about them in Marksburg. They're famous.
Right you are, son. The famous Brothers Grimm.
What a strapping young man.
He is my daughter.
This is a fairy tale, but at the same time it crosses over into this sort of semi-truthful history about how the Grimm brothers collected all these folk tales and put them into one big novel. There is a nice parallel between reality and fantasy here.
It's the same tale in her drawings. Of course, Jay.
Fairy tales are my kind of world, world of fantasy and extraordinary things. Yeah, it always felt I could do something with this.
I'm very happy to be in this project. I'm a big fan of Terry Gilliam, and the cast is amazing, especially Matt Damon and Heath Ledger.
I can't remember who they are. Just a couple of old actors. You bring them in, you put them in 19th century gear, and then we got them. We got Matt Damon and Heath Ledger, an Australian and an American, playing Germans in the 19th century with English accents.
I got a phone call that said, Terry Gilliam would like to meet you tomorrow, and can you read this script tonight? And I read the script, and I thought it was fantastic, and went in and met him, and I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Where's the bad news in all this?
He actually came into the meeting saying he wanted to play Will, and I said, I don't know, Matt. And I then spent the whole evening with him, talking him out of playing Will. I said, whatever you'd like to be, you are this. Certain people are born looking that way, which is certain, blah, blah. And by the end of the evening, he left and said, well, whichever part you want me to play, I'm in. Heath came around the next morning, and I just said, okay, I met Matt last night, he's great, it'd be really good, the two of you. Which part do you want to play, Heath? He said, oh, I'd like to play Jake. And I said, what? And, right, okay, well, you got it. And the reason I liked it was we were basically casting against type. And I love doing that. And it's dangerous, and you can fall flat on your face. But I thought, okay, let's do it. Let's just turn it around. And it's been brilliant. It's worked brilliantly.
Kiss a froggy, he'll turn into a prince.
I mean, Matt, I've never seen anybody work so hard to become a character so unlike who he is.
Hello.
Getting this English accent, the way he moves, everything about his bearing is completely different. And I hope an audience will respond with the same sort of excitement I do by seeing these guys playing such different characters than you've ever seen them play before.
Hello, ladies. What say we continue our little philosophical discussion upstairs? What do you say, Jake? A little chit, a little chat?
A little huff, a little puff, thank you very much, Will.
There he goes.
I'm hugely impressed by both Matt and Heath in their commitment to the work and their ability to work together very well.
We each came out 2 months before we started shooting, and we were rehearsing and we were researching and doing kind of all the stuff to get ready, but we were also spending time together. And
we figured out the symbiotics between the two characters, so we're synchronized in step, and then eventually after working with each other for that long, you just start smiling like each other, laughing like each other, walking like each other.
And that, while seeming the most innocuous of all the things we were doing, because everything else was scheduled and regimented, and Heath and I just kind of chose to hang out after work and have a beer and talk or whatever, you know, that stuff I think really ends up being the most important in the end in terms of establishing a relationship that's believable.
I don't know, you just find a bond, and we did.
They're not competing with each other. They've found like two sides of one character, which is so nice.
For me personally, I mean, it's been a real opportunity to leap out of my skin, and I've had an absolute ball. I've gone for it. I've had no shame whatsoever.
Oh, hey, morning. Hello.
And that's a gift from Terry, because playing comedy and feeling comfortable and free enough to express yourself in these ways, you have to really trust the person directing you, because, you know, when you're going to such extremes, there's so much bad stuff you go through. You gotta be bad to be good.
Cut.
Signore, with bounteous pleasure, I, Mercurio Cavalli, present to you.
Cavalli is, it was just an incredibly interesting character.
Threatens your superior.
Cavalli is supposed to be the world's finest torturer, and he isn't.
Mercurio Cavalli, played by Peter Stormare, who is an Italian torture artist, or tortured artist, I think he is, actually.
I can make them speak.
And Cavalli, he's got a machine there that you put in liars, and out comes truth.
Bella Machina, I have perfected her. Look at her.
Shut your face. And cut.
So it's a very fun character, an interesting character. He's someone who's all at once funny and dangerous, and he rides that balance really well.
This is something unheard of, but it's happened. You blocked yourself with his head. Oh my God. And Peter's extraordinary. He's just a brilliant actor. And to go from Bergman to what he's done in Hollywood to this.
Musica.
He normally plays such dark, sort of brooding characters. And this one, he's expansive, he's theatrical, he's outrageous.
Great Cavalli never found.
Well, Jonathan is wonderful, because Jonathan Pryce is Delatom, because he's really dangerous. And he's really funny. Again, that's another double act. The Cavalli Delatom is a double act.
Generale, I myself, I have something of a talent for the preparation to escargot. Escargot, oui.
And Jonathan, his stillness is terrifying, and Peter's busyness, it works brilliantly.
Followed with the boiling in their own shells. Oui. Allez.
Delatom, is not fond of German cuisine of the period. Apart from repressing and suppressing the people, he's interested in a good meal.
Open up the cauldron!
Well, at one point I said I only wanted to make films by Terry Gilliam, but I soon realized if that was the case, I'd be very poor, very hungry.
Look, if Terry wasn't a part of the project, I don't think anyone else would be here either. And he certainly elevated this project to another level and inspired this eccentric quality out of everyone.
But it's incredible, because as soon as I met him, I felt like if I knew him already. He knows how to bring the best from you and use it for the movie.
Yeah, I'm just a director for hire here. Just an old hack coming in to sort out a script that's been hanging around for a while that needed a bit of
The creation comes out of joy and festivity for him. To see things and to feel that actors are with him on a very special journey.
The Grimmy! Yeah, it is them. They are the ones. The Grimmy!
Yeah, I think it's a better punch.
The Grimmy!
What is your point?
The point? I point to Grimmy!
Why do you point?
Ah, the point.
I really love to step up 5 o'clock in the morning and I know, wow, I'm gonna work with Terry today.
He's interested in detail. And that's why he shoots everything on these wide-angle lenses that incorporate this world that he's creating. And because the lens takes in so much, the frame is packed with information, and there are all these different elements that have to work for the shot to work, and how he does that is by focusing on every detail.
Stop the geese.
Stop the geese.
Come on.
So sometimes you find yourself waiting around while they try to wrangle geese into the very deep background of a shot.
Here they come, back in for their close-up. Come on, everyone is stopped.
And the geese don't want to cooperate, and you're sitting around for 10 minutes as, you know, some geese wranglers from the Czech Republic are trying to get these geese into the background of the shot.
They could just move the geese forward a little bit, it helps. There we go.
Bring them back.
I think the performances have just skyrocketed with the geese.
The geese.
It's focused everything suddenly for. What I liked about it was I could create a world that I feel comfortable in. And we've done a lot of work, and now the characters are deserving of the world, and I think we're all very pleased with where we are now.
And in the very middle of the wood was the witch's gingerbread house.
Land that we're walking up here is basically a wood structure with a plaster sheet over the top, and then various layers of peat which have been laid down. You'll see here, this is actually not real stone, it's just plaster sheet.
I'm totally eclectic. I'm just a magpie. So when we're designing a film or thinking about a film, and just books, paintings, everything. We looked at a lot of Arthur Rackham, British illustrator, because he does brilliant trees. Trees that twist and are gnarled and are almost anthropomorphic.
He felt that we'd get a stronger effect from the forest if it was quite realistic, and just a few things in there threw you off to make you feel uncomfortable.
Look at the real world. Look at what trees are like. They're bizarre, they're strange, they're terrifying.
When we were building the forest, in order to get sort of a creepy tree look, I discovered the root ball could pass as branches, but at the same time they have unusual shapes. So we actually used that technique in the set.
It's a funny balance of going from the abstract and the totally aesthetic artistically and the natural world and trying to squish them together. The construction, when you get around to building things, we were going out and we bought old barns and tore them down and built out of old timbers so that you really feel it. I mean, you could argue it's even claustrophobic because there's so much of this world around you.
One area where he took a very, very keen interest in the design was with these torture devices. In fact, the Angelica torture device, where she's in a huge wine vat and the spinning blades are coming down, that was sort of a mixture of both of us getting very silly one evening with sketch paper and pencils, drawing over each other's sketches and coming up with something funny, really. I started putting some...
but the bottom should...
Another Terry idea, a very good one. The Frankfurt Castle's food was also prepared in the dungeon. So you had this sort of disgusting crossover from torture to food and meat being prepared. So we had huge carcasses hanging up of sides of pigs and whole cows down there, all being sawn up while people were busy being stretched and boiled to death. So quite an interesting mix there. And you're not even sure if the vat of boiling oil there is actually a soup that's being cooked up or whether it's used to dip people in.
We squeezed everything into the dungeon, all the darkness of the Grimm brothers. In the 350 stories they wrote, there's always a torture chamber somewhere, or an oven, or a dark cellar that people are being locked up in.
When we started this whole thing, Heath and I started researching the brothers, but we realized pretty soon that this is very much a fiction. I mean, the brothers themselves were these incredible scholars who kind of resurrected this German folk history. They were pretty incredible guys.
These brothers were extraordinary. They had a long life and they all went into politics and they were highly rewarded.
The Grimms were writing their tales for a very bourgeois audience. They were, even to the point they Bowdlerized their own work, because in the first edition of Rapunzel, who is letting her hair down, and the old lady climbs up, and one day along comes a prince and discovers this and starts coming up, and he falls in love with Rapunzel, she falls in love with him. In the earlier version, at one point when the old witch is up there, Rapunzel is complaining that her clothes aren't fitting, they've grown too tight around her belly. Bingo, knocked up by the prince. Well, anyway, in the second edition of the thing, they cut that out. I used to blame Disney for bowdlerizing Grimm's, but Grimm's were doing it before. They were, in a sense, doing what Disney was doing, going for the same middle-class audience, the safe audience. And we tried to avoid, Disney, and we tried to avoid cartoon versions of things, because I was determined that the world feel real. I mean, when I look at the film, the texture, you can feel it. It's all around you. It's just everywhere you're looking, there's something going on there. And I love that because it throws you into that world. I want the audience to exercise their imagination. I want them to be frightened.
The Grimm brothers and Terry Gilliam is a very good mix.
It really is unique and unlike any movie I've seen, I think, so far.
It's been a riot. I absolutely love working with that guy. Everyone does, down to every single apartment. Just loves this guy, obviously bows down to him and his movies, and so we're all willing to work our asses off for him, and we do, and we love it.
It's amazing to be part of this, you know what I mean? They built villages, they built woods, they built forests, they built ruins. It's like, I feel like a kid when I turn up.
He has his intuition and he wants to work under the flag of joy.